Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we've got another video in 6.5 Grendel, and as promised we're going to do a part 2 with the accurate 2520. Whoops, I'm throwing my stuff around here. We are going back and shooting both the 120 grain ELDM and the 120 grain Spear Gold Dot. Now, I only have 37 of these bullets left, and as you guys probably know, components are very hard to get right now. 120 grain Spear Gold Dots haven't been available for at least a year now. Since I only have 37 of them, and I would like to be able to hunt with them next fall, even if I can't find any more, I'm going to do a little bit of an abbreviated test with these today. So we're going to just shoot 3 loads of the Gold Dot, picking up where we left off. Now, since we're just doing 3 with these, let's do 3 with the ELDM as well, so we'll just shoot 3 groups with each bullet. We are going to pick up where we left off on the charge weight for the 120 grain ELD. The Gold Dot, I'm going to start a little higher. I'm actually going to start with our first group being 29 grains with this, which is actually pretty close to where we left off with the 120 grain bullet. I am not worried at all about pressure on that first load. We didn't have any trouble where we were before, and I have consistently run these Gold Dots with AR comp 2 full grains of powder over Spear's listed load data and have not had any problems. I did go ahead and pick up a Spear load manual. I've had this for a few days. It does have a lot of good hand loading information in it. Of course, they go through all the lawyerese and say never, ever, ever exceed max listed charge weights at all. But of course, we don't really pay attention to that too much. We just are very safe, watch for pressure, all that. We are trying to squeeze a little bit of performance out of this gun. The Spear manual does not, however, have load data for accurate 2520. I think we've talked about that before, so this is kind of, we're going off the load data for other 120 grain bullets. The brass is, same as the last video, we're doing Starline small rifle primer brass. This has been fired once, resized to a 2000 shoulder bump, and chamfered, deburred, all of that. The only difference in the brass prep between last time and this time, this brass has been wet tumbled. So the primer pockets are clean, the insides are clean, all that. I didn't have a wet tumbling setup last time, but I do now, and I'm loving it. I think I said CCI 450 primers, because that's what we did last time. I was going to grab Remington 7.5s for this, but figured we better stick with the same components that we used in the last video. So let me get some of this cleared away, and we'll start priming up some brass. Got our number 6 shell holder in here. Let's dump in 30 primers, since that's the number of rounds we'll be loading. And I think I said this before, but the reason that we are shooting fewer rounds today is simply because components are scarce right now. We don't have enough bullets, we don't have enough primers. The only thing we seem to have enough of is brass. I was just able to place a back order for 250 pieces of Starline brass. I am liking Starline brass quite a bit. I've had several of the best groups I've ever shot be with Starline brass, and that's really all I've been using lately in my precision stuff. Of course, with 223 and 9mm and all of that, I do you know, just recycled brass, whatever I can find. But all the new brass I've bought so far since that first batch of Hornady that I used with the 6.5 Grendel has been Starline, and the primer pockets seem to hold up really nicely, and it just seems to be really good brass overall. I haven't weighed it, checked for variations like that, but yeah, I'm not getting into it that deep. The only other brand of new brass that I have tried so far is Winchester. In fact, I've got a piece of it here. A coworker was wanting to load up some 350 Legend for his AR, and the only reason I have this piece of brass is because it was so defective and so large, we could not get it into the sizing die to size it to the correct size for the bullet. You drop that big old 357 bullet in and it would slide halfway down the neck, or halfway down the case. And no matter how much we lubed it, we couldn't even get it into the sizing die. So this piece of brass was completely defunct, and the only reason I have it. Also, their primer pockets were super, oh, now I gotta figure out where I was. Their primer pockets were super loose, and I mean really loose. You would squeeze the handle and it would feel like you weren't even putting a primer in because there was so little tension. I suspect that brass won't last more than 1 or 2 firings. So anyway, been super happy with the Starline brass. The primer pocket seating force is pretty consistent. More consistent when it's new, obviously. But on the second, and most of the Starline brass I have, I'm on the second loading of. And it's just fine so far. Time will tell how many loadings it stands up to. I am planning on, once I get all of my Starline brass to be about twice fired, something like that, I'm gonna send it off to an annealer and have it all done. The Creedmoor brass, 308 brass, all of that. I did also order another 250 pieces of 6.5 Creedmoor brass from Starline, the small rifle primer variety, because I do have more small rifle primers than just about anything else. Running a little low on large rifle, so we'll probably stick with small rifle primers for most of our Creedmoor work. Okay, there are 30 pieces of brass primed up. I've got 20 more here that I've got ready to load. I'm going to set them to the side. I will throw those in a bag here and mark them as ready to load. I don't need to load sighters today. I do have quite a few rounds of our AR comp load with the 120 grain ELD loaded up. So we've got those for sighters, and of course I always like to do a little bit of plinking while I'm on the range. Even though I'm not going to be doing much of that since we're short on ammo. Okay, so I've got our brass separated out here. Let's get to powder weighing. I have had the scale warming up for the last 10, probably 15 minutes. Because it is kind of cold down here in my basement reloading area. It's probably 45 degrees, 50 degrees, something like that. So I've let the scale warm up for quite a while. Got all the IMR 4227, I think is what was in here last. Got all that cleaned out. That's what we were using in the 350 Legend. Here's what we're doing. So we're starting out with the 120 ELD, 29.4, 29.7, and 30 grains even. And then with the gold dot, we'll do 29, 29.3, and 29.6. I'm tempted to throw another charge weight in there, but again, I don't want to go through any more of these bullets than I absolutely have to. So that's what we're going to do for today. Let's do everything on one bullet, then we'll move on to the next. I won't show you guys, I won't make you watch powder weighing, bullet seating, all that. We'll just come back when I get done loading if there was anything that comes up. Otherwise, we'll just get out to the range and shoot this stuff. All right, folks, out here at the range with the 6.5 Grendel, shooting our Accurate 2520 load continuation workup. Got to refamiliarize myself with this a little bit because it's been probably the better part of 2 months since I loaded this test. Maybe not quite that long, but it's been a long time. I am going to be watching very carefully for pressure signs, as I believe all of these are above max charge weights. I do think I'm going to start I'm going to shoot all of one bullet and then I'll move on to the next bullet. I won't go back and forth like I do sometimes. I'm just going to settle in here, take my time, and see if we can print some tiny groups. I don't know why I only loaded 4 in that magazine. Do have what should be a pretty good 0 set with the same load, or the same bullet, but with AR comp. So we'll do the 120 grain ELD on the top and the spear gold dot on the bottom. Something feels off. Could be me. All right, 4 of those went into a nice little tight group with 1 outside. Again, that could have been me. I was just shooting 30-06, which of course feels a heck of a lot different than a braked AR in 6.5 Grendel, all of which contribute to a lighter recoil. Now let me take a look at the velocity and the brass and see where we're at. Brass looks normal, if very dirty for this load, which is odd. I definitely have hot brass again. If you'll remember the video with the 85 grain varminter, I was surprised by how cool the brass when I picked it up, and it is back to being hot. Great stuff on the numbers front, though. That gave a standard deviation of 7 feet per second. Excellent. Superb. Maybe this next group will be a little bit better. That one, I know I torqued. That felt terrible. I don't know what is up with me. I was shooting excellent. Okay, so I know for a fact that those last trigger pulls were good. I'm gonna call that small 4 shots our group size because I know that one shot I torqued. You could probably even see it in the video. The gun went like that, and that was all me putting weird torque on the grip. That's one reason I have a whole lot easier time shooting a bolt action. I'm definitely getting used to the AR platform though. Been shooting ARs in different calibers for 3 years now, but I don't have near as much experience with them as I do at bolt action still. Anyway, that was a great 4-shot group. Maybe on the last one, well, if I look at the brass and it's okay, maybe on the last one I'll be able to hold it together and actually do my part. Guys, we're starting to get bonkers good numbers. Extreme spread of 10 feet per second on that one. I did lose a piece of brass. Not sure where it went, but found a piece I'd lost earlier of Grendel brass. So anyway, we will shoot this last group. 24.55 was the average on that group, I believe. I got dang biting flies beating the crap out of me. I think part of my problem is that I cannot get my rest quite low enough. Well, my rear rest is crappy. A piece of brass flew out a little different. I hate to break cheek weld, but I suppose I better take a look at it. It's just fine. Maybe slightly less dirty than the last one, if that means anything, which I don't think it does. This weirdly feels like it's shooting softer, which I don't understand. All right, still not a bad group, but that fell apart all kinds from our last group and even the group before it. So, interesting. Looks like 2480 on the chronograph. Yeah, and the numbers opened up quite a bit. Extreme spread of 28 feet per second, which is still not bad, but it's not 10 like the last one was. Okay, good info. Let the gun cool for a bit, and I'll move on to the Spear Gold Dots. These are ones, I did manage to actually pick up another 2 boxes of these Spear Gold Dots that just showed up at my house day before yesterday, I think. So we will have some more of these to play around with, which I didn't think we were going to. They've been out of stock for the better part of 2 years, so I was glad to be able to get some of those. Last I looked, they were still available on Spear's website. Pricier than they were before. They used to be like 12 bucks a box. Now I think they're 20. But, you know, they're there. So there were no pressure signs on that last group at all. Haven't seen any pressure yet today. The Spear Gold Dot, now this is way over published max loads for this particular bullet. So just keep that in mind. I'm going to be watching it really closely. Spear says not to use regular data, but everybody seems to, and it seems to do just fine. So let's hope I don't blow the gun up. And point of impact is drastically different, but I'm used to that with this bullet. Pretty sure that went through the same hole, but I'm not sure. Holy cow, folks. That is the best group this bullet has ever shot for me. Bar none. 0.6 is my guess. I don't know that, but that's my guess. And it looks like 2390. Okay. Not expecting that. Let me go take a look at those numbers. We were all the way down at 2330 for an average on that group, which is low, way low. Brass looks fine though. Not a thing wrong with it. Fold that one. That group opened up for sure. We're not even to 2,400 feet per second, which is weird. Seems like we hit 24 last time. Took a few minutes, did a little range cleanup, because people are slobs. And we'll shoot this last group. I knew this bullet could shoot. We just had to find the right load. That group was even better than the first group with the Spear Gold Dot. So we finally found something, a powder, that this bullet likes. Let me take a look at the numbers. Well, we're back down to a standard deviation of 7, extreme spread of 17. That's a lot better. Excellent group. I really want to get the calipers on it. Let's do that. All right, so we're back down here at the bench taking a look at these groups with our second part of the Accurate 25-20 test. And we've got some really good stuff going on here. My shooting, however, was not the best. And I think I remember telling you guys I screwed up this group and this group. This one, I don't think I did. That just started to fall apart. The numbers on the SD and ES also opened up on this one. But on these two groups, these 4 shots are going to be the more realistic indicator of these groups. I don't always say that. Sometimes I know that I did everything right and the groups just threw one wild. That was not the case with this time. This was all me. Even so, this group was 0.9 and this was 1.4. This was way big, but you'll remember I said that shot, I torqued the gun way too much. So we've got a 0.6 and a 0.48 for those two groups, and that is awesome. That was with the 120 grain ELD. The real story for this, though, is the Spear Gold Dot, and it did incredibly. If you'll remember back to the last video, I think I said that I wasn't going to bother with the Gold Dot trying to load up more with the 25-20. Well, I'm really glad that I went back on that and did it anyway, because the accuracy that we're getting with the 25-20 and that bullet is far superior to anything I've gotten with this bullet before. You can see we've got a pretty clear point of impact shift here. I did not make any scope adjustments. I don't think. I'll have to go back and look at the footage to be sure, but I'm pretty sure I did not make a scope adjustment. And we got a pretty clear point of impact down here, spreading in between the two spots, and then this one moved up and finished out there. So we had a 0.78 group there and a 0.050 inch group here, and this is the absolute best group. Well, these two groups are the best groups this bullet has ever shot out of my gun, and I am really happy with that. This one hit right around that 2,400 feet per second mark that I kind of look for as a minimum with 120 grain bullet out of this gun. This load was hitting with my, I think, 27.2 grain charge of AR comp, so that is awesome. I may have to do a part 3 because, as you saw, we're only hitting that 24-ish 100 feet per second mark. I think this one got up. Actually, tell you what, but instead of just guessing at velocities, let me go back and look and see what they actually did and write them down so that I have some real numbers to talk about. All right, so little going back through the chronograph, found my numbers, and of course I had to move stuff around because I was shooting more than 9 groups in the day. And anyway, I need to get a chronograph at some point that saves it to a chart on my phone so that I can make notes and maybe keep myself a little more organized. Anyway, we were, see, this group, as I had mentioned, we opened up to an extreme spread of 28, which is actually, I mean, yeah, not bad, but compared to the others, extreme spread of 10 on this group that did really well. Yeah. Anyway, here's what we're interested in. Average of 2398, so 2,400 feet per second, pretty much right where we were at before. Extreme spread of 17 and a standard deviation of 7 feet per second, and that's great. We had there were similar numbers across the whole thing. I know you can't see these on the paper, but I'll read them out. We had 25 feet per second for an extreme spread here, and 17 again for this middle group. So you can tell we're getting into a really good area, and it really does make me want to explore this area even more. And probably going to do that. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Check us out over on Instagram, Patreon, and all those spots. Also have some videos up on Full 30 now, some that are not available on YouTube. So thank you guys again for watching, and y'all have a good one.